In the past week, a lot of people are wondering, where are we now and how did we get here? In this video, I'm going to show you the answer to that question and what you can do about it. And I'm also going to explain why no one saw this coming in regards to where we are right now. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I help people to spiritually awaken so they can enter a conscious path of ascension. And be sure to subscribe so you catch all my videos to support you on your awakening and ascension journey. Now, before I begin, I want to thank all of you so much for helping me to reach 10,000 subscribers on this channel. You guys have been absolutely awesome at helping to build a beautiful community here, and it just keeps growing, and I'm so appreciative of every single one of you, and I just want to tell you all that I love you so very much. Okay, so now let's get into it. 2020 has been the most profound year of total change and transformation. Most of it traumatic and very shocking. Now, I've been thinking about the election in the US this year and also what happened 4 years ago. And I want to invite you guys to take a step back and look at something incredibly interesting. Now, in order to see things clearly, you need to step back and look at what is underlying the facts and circumstances and try to observe this from a cosmic extraterrestrial perspective. Because you see, doing so is part of our process of waking up at a much more universal level of consciousness. See, there's no way to really gain perspective on any of this if you only try to observe it from an earth-based level. So what we want to do is we want to lift up the layers of physical facts and circumstances and see some very interesting underpinnings that exist underneath all of that. And what we see underneath it is going to serve as a very interesting lesson in manifestation and empowerment. So 4 years ago, we had one side who completely assumed that their person was going to win. I mean, it was hands down a done deal, because to them, it was so obvious that no one was ever going to elect this total misfit of a candidate who was on the other side. So up until the last minute, that side was utterly convinced that they had won. And then at the last minute, the shock of all shocks occurred. They discovered that they had lost to this supposedly incompetent misfit who was supposedly going to destroy the whole planet. And then the emotional devastation that resulted was incredible. The stress was off the charts, and the trauma of the entire experience was just unrelenting for nearly 4 years. And now, here we are 4 years later, and the exact same emotional experience is happening on the other side. Now stay with me, you guys, because I'm going to show you a very, very interesting insight about this whole thing. So the side that won the election 4 years ago found themselves saying exactly the same things prior to this election that the losing side said the last time around. You know, things like, oh, that candidate is a total misfit. He's completely incompetent. No one would ever elect that person. And sure enough, up until the last minute, that side was 100% convinced that they were going to win in a landslide. And then the same thing happened again. Only now it was their turn to lose and go through the exact same emotional shock, trauma, and devastation of it all. I mean, it's the exact same perspective. This guy is now going to destroy the entire planet. Do you guys see that each side on an emotional level is an exact mirror image of the other side over this period of time? Isn't that crazy? So we tend to think that we are divided as a nation, but the truth is we are completely unified in our devotion to duality. That devotion is now so amplified that it is actually manifesting on an emotional level in exactly the same way. We are mirroring both sides and each other exactly. Now you have to put aside all of the external facts and look beneath those facts to understand the energy of what is actually happening. I mean, in both cases, each side was 100% convinced that the other side had stolen the election. And I guarantee you that if you could stand inside the consciousness of either side, you would absolutely be convinced of the same thing. But here's the thing, you guys, we're completely missing a very important point. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because I'm trying to neutralize the polarity of the situation. Why would I want to do that? Well, because we need to neutralize that polarity so that we can come into our full power as human beings in this entire planetary situation. See, what you guys need to understand is that this planet has been completely controlled and corrupted to its very core for thousands and thousands of years. There have been heroes and there have been evildoers, because that's what happens in duality. Sometimes the heroes win and sometimes the evildoers win. But if you look at the history of this planet, it's mostly the evildoers who win, because that is currently the nature of planet Earth's reality. Now, when I realized how amazing it is that both sides have had the exact same emotional experience and perception, regardless of any so-called facts, I realized that hidden in this entire situation is another aspect available to us for our awakening and ascension journey. We are seeing the essence of duality unfolding before our very eyes on a very human and collective level. We are experiencing the exact mirror image of that duality on both sides of the political spectrum. Now, you have to be willing to go underneath who's right and who's wrong in order to see what it is I'm trying to show you. And yes, it seems that one side tends to be more violent and the other side tends to be more peaceful. But that's the manifestation of duality right there. And this is what humans have been addicted to for thousands and thousands of years. And what's happening right now is an extreme amplification of this manifestation. Now, as I said, historically, the evildoers often win in the end because the nature of this planet's reality and its physics actually support that. But that doesn't mean it's all over, because we are in an ascension process. Now, all of what has been unfolding on this planet has a whole storyline associated with it. But let's put that whole story aside for a moment and look at what we know about the law of attraction. The law of attraction is a universal law that cannot be changed by human beings. I mean, that's just a fact. So the side that lost 4 years ago had a certain mindset. Let's call it the mindset of assumption. They assumed so deeply that they were right that they got lazy. They figured that they didn't have to worry about anything because, of course, any sane person would naturally see things their way. And then they lost. You see, they substituted assumption for intention. So here we are now 4 years later, and what do we see? This time around, the side that won 4 years ago figured it was just so darn obvious that anyone with half a brain would see that this time they were the ones that are right. So then they too fell into the very same trap of assumption. Their assumption that this time they were right was so strong that it failed to register for them that the other side was literally in a fight to the death. The other side seriously meant business this time around. See, the other side saw the mistake they had made the last time by assuming things. This time there was no room for failure. Whatever it took, they were absolutely willing to do it. So if you cared to look, you could see that right or wrong, their intention was clear, it was powerful, and it was unwavering. They were going to amass whatever energy it took in whatever form to achieve the result that they wanted. That is called the difference between the power of intention versus the weakness of assumption. See, just because you believe that you are on the good side doesn't mean that you can assume anything, because assuming is only going to make you lazy and unconscious. It makes you think that you have everything in the bag, so you end up with a weakened intention without even realizing it. Now, here's where we as light warriors have to be very careful and learn a lesson from all of the things I've been talking about. We have to be very careful that we are not building an assumption without realizing it every time we say things like, the light wins, or God wins, or things like that. Because these things can actually turn into just unconscious slogans that we just throw out there as though they're a magic wand that's going to make everything happen the way that we want. So here's what you need to really think about. Whenever we say things like the light wins or God wins, here's what we really need to be thinking about. See, the truth is that God and the light are not in a battle of any kind. So they actually don't need to win anything, because you guys, the battle is the illusion. And our belief that it's a battle is what keeps us trapped. It keeps us trapped in duality. And you know, it's interesting because I have so far posted 3 different audio channelings here on YouTube. One was Archangel Michael, and the 2 others were from someone in Telstar. I can't remember which of the beings said this, but in 3 different channelings, I think they were even sequential, and this might have even been before or right at the beginning of the whole lockdown situation. And what they said was, don't try to fight the controllers on a physical level because you will lose. And I know we don't want to hear that, right? Because we are so invested in everything being physical, because that's how we've been conditioned. And we have completely forgotten how to tap into the truth of the real cosmic power that we have available to us. So the reason that Archangel Michael and the 2 others in Telstar would say this is because they truly understand the underlying physics of our entire reality. And this is the reason for our awakening, you guys, so that we can expand our consciousness and come into our full power at multidimensional, interdimensional levels, which is the level we need to be functioning at, because, guys, that's the level the controllers are functioning at. And if we're just only focused on physical circumstances and storylines, we're really at a disadvantage, because we're just at a very small spectrum of operation. We're there at a much wider one. So we need to awaken and expand our consciousness and energy so we can match, at the very least, match the level at which they function at, and go even beyond that, because we're capable of going beyond it. We're capable of so much more than we actually realize. So we need to come to terms with the fact that for thousands of years, we as a collective humanity have been just basically hell-bent on doing physical battle. It's like in that lower level of consciousness, we only know one thing. It's either dominate or be dominated. And that's how we have tended to approach everything. And overall, we haven't really changed that much or evolved out of this yet, which is why I strongly encourage you to continue to focus on ascension and your awakening, because that is designed to empower you at levels you perhaps never even dreamed possible. See, when we become so fixated on duality, we just don't hear anything else, because in that fixation, we start to believe that that's all there is. Now, I have a very interesting little prediction for you guys. I have a prediction that as we go forward in this ascension process, as we go forward into the end of 2020, into 2021 and beyond, I suspect that there are a lot of spiritual teachings that we've been heavily invested in. A lot of those teachings are going to start to fail us. And here's why I say that. They're going to fail because they rest on a foundational belief that somehow pain and suffering are spiritually necessary. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. That is a wonderful philosophy if you are living in a comfortable state of life. But it completely falls apart when you find that you are the one suffering, because then the truth will tend to hit you right in the face. Like, why is this happening? This doesn't make any sense. I mean, look at something like a major religion, for example, such as Christianity. It's completely built on the belief that suffering is the path to salvation. I mean, that's what the crucifixion's all about, right? Now, I ask you this, has that concept really helped us? Not really, you guys, because we are well on the road to being absorbed into an AI universe. And don't leave me any mean, nasty Bible comments about what a terrible person I am for saying that, because I'm probably just going to delete it. Now, as I'm filming this video, I don't really know if this election will be firmly decided or not by the time that I post it, but I can tell you who has the energetic leverage at this moment. It's the side who, right or wrong, has the firmest, most unwavering intent. It's the side who under no circumstances will accept failure of any kind, period. That's who has the leverage. See, the fact that they have the leverage is really due to a law of physics. It doesn't have anything to do with who's right and who's wrong. So I don't really know which side is going to ultimately win, but I do know for sure that it will be the side that has the greatest energetic leverage. Now, I want to say something about knowing that you are of the light, and also believing that therefore the light is going to win it for you. See, that's actually never really happened in the entire history of the world, because there are laws of physics and creation that are always at play. And these laws operate in accordance with whatever reality you find yourself in. See, the law of attraction does not get suspended because it's just not in vogue anymore. So if you are distressed about the outcome of this past week, here's what you need to do. And you also need to know that that feeling of being distressed can shift from one side back to the other side, back to the other side. I mean, it can go back and forth because this is a very unstable situation. Here's what I recommend you do regardless of which side you're on. Consider detaching your consciousness from whatever politician you are attached to. Consider becoming transcendent of the whole storyline behind everything. See, ultimately, we are a collective human consciousness, and everyone is going to experience the consequences of our collective consciousness. Now, when you take away the current storyline, here's what you're left with. We are all creators and manifestors, and we have basically turned our consciousness over to nefarious forces a very long time ago. And those forces are now completely out in the open because they can afford to be. They have already achieved almost total control of our mass consciousness due to the internet and our propensity to be willing to leave the physical world and go into an AI universe. And that AI universe starts with the internet. Now, this does not mean that all is lost. It definitely is not, and it's never the case that all is lost, actually. But it does mean that we as a species have some very serious soul searching that we need to do. We have to become brutally honest with ourselves and stop telling ourselves fanciful stories about everything that are really just designed to make us feel better about all of it. We have to upgrade to a much more serious path path of evolution. We have to go to the next level entirely. Like I always say, we actually have a whole series of red pills that we need to take. And the most important ones are going to confront you to your very core. The most serious ones will reveal to you levels of attachment that you didn't even know you had. So why don't we start with this one? How much of your story about everything happening on this planet are you willing to give up? How much of the story that you've been fed by the media in all of its forms, how much of that story are you willing to give up? See, we need to come to terms with the fact that the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we adopt from those who want to program us about what that story is, those stories have virtually no impact on the outcome that we actually end up experiencing. Now, I know there are a lot of people who wonder why higher level extraterrestrials don't come and help us out. It's because we make it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, on so many levels. We tend to be really stubborn when it comes to our point of view. We just don't really integrate with the rest of the cosmos at a much higher level, and here is why. It's because of our collective belief that suffering is the path to something spiritually positive. It actually isn't, you guys. It's the path to nothing. I mean, what does suffering ultimately teach you? It teaches you that you don't like it and that you don't want it. I mean, that's not really all that complicated, is it? So here's what I suggest you do. Take some time to yourself. And just consider the whole storyline that you've been fed, that we've all been fed, that we all believe in, that we're all at odds against each other over that story. Realize that it's a story of duality and of doing battle, and realize that that story is designed to trap us into hating each other, battling each other, fighting each other, and never ever getting out of this. Now, that doesn't mean we should be passive. By no means should we take a passive approach. That doesn't mean to go into denial. What I'm suggesting is to expand your consciousness to a much higher multidimensional, interdimensional level so that you can be centered in something that is way beyond the whole story itself. So by detaching all of that, you stop allowing it to siphon off your energy, siphon off your consciousness, and put you in a state of stress and survival. And then you can come back into center. You can get reconnected with nature. And nature also includes the nature of how you actually are as a human being. And you need to put things like the news and the media in perspective. Understand it is an extremely toxic environment. It's designed to control you. It's designed to mentally manipulate you. It's designed to emotionally manipulate you. And most of all, it's designed to siphon off your energy so that you become frantic, fearful, and powerless to do anything at all, much less even know who you really are. So sure, you can dip in to find out what's going on, find out what they're saying, find out maybe what's happening, but you need to always maintain your sovereignty. Do not let the news and the media, and that includes social media, do not let it take over your consciousness and control your entire experience, because that's what they want to do. They want to psychologically and emotionally destroy you. So make an effort to get back in touch with nature. Give yourself some space, give yourself some peace so you can think for yourself. Do some kind of art so that your creative energy starts to flow again, especially because we're being so repressed right now. And we need to have our creative energy flow because at a higher level, we need to continue functioning as creators and manifestors on a very conscious level. So engaging in some kind of art keeps that energy, keeps that door open to that creative power flowing through your body. Get outside as much as you can, move around, exercise, get back into your body. Do whatever you can to raise your vibration and become healthier. Do these simple things and just Give your soul a chance to talk to you. Give your soul, your inner being, a chance to communicate with you. That's who you need to be listening to, not the media. I mean, think about it. What kind of destiny do you really want in this universe? Not just on this planet Earth, but in this universe, what kind of destiny do you want? Look to your heart, because your heart has the answer for you as an individual. So the things that we can do to empower ourselves are not really very complicated. They're just those few simple things that I outlined will make a massive difference in your experience. So for right now, I wish you quiet moments of peace and serenity, because that's something that you can actually give yourself. So if you love yourself, which of course you really do, when you get rid of all that dysfunctional programming, you naturally love yourself. So allow yourself to love yourself and do these things for yourself right now. Be a nurturing force in your own life. And when you take that position and you start raising your vibration accordingly, you actually open yourself up so that the universe of light and love will begin to nurture you at the same time. So take all of those things into account, and I will certainly be back with even more in the next video to continue on with this conversation. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you feel would benefit from this information. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I am here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday with new videos to support you on your awakening and ascension journey. And with that, I'm sending you loads of love, light, and positive energy. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste.